What's up guys, my name is Laura and welcome back to my channel. Now one of the questions that I get asked a lot as a photographer is how to get people out of your pictures. But something that a lot of people don't think about is how to get people into your pictures. I use this trick a lot when I'm on vacation and I'm with someone or I ask somebody to take a photo of me and I can't really trust them or the shot that they take isn't really great. I'll go ahead and frame up a similar shot but more to my liking and then just cut myself out of the image that they took and put it into the image that I took that in my mind is exponentially better. So I think that in general when you're doing photography, really be creative and think about how you can make the image the best that it can be. You can use all the tricks in the book from editing to setting shots up. In fact, a lot of the best shots that you see, they're not by accident. They're not just luck. They were set up. The photographer thought about it and they basically did everything in their power to make the shot awesome. So definitely use these tips and tricks to make your photos stand out. If you guys haven't already, please like and subscribe this video. I would really appreciate it. Let's jump in. I'm gonna be showing you guys how to do this in Photoshop. So this is the image that I'm gonna be working on today. As you can see, it's a really cool shot of China walls at Oahu, Hawaii. But I thought that it'd be really cool to have a person standing somewhere in this image. So this is another image that a photographer that I saw there took for me. As you can see, it's decent, but it's pretty lackluster. So I'm going to be cutting myself out of this picture and pasting myself into this shot. Now, the first thing that you need to think about when doing this effect, this is the most important factor, to be honest with you, to make this effect look realistic, is to note where the light is coming from and what the light looks like what the color temperature is and all of that. So in this shot, the light is coming from really low on the horizon. It's coming in at almost like a horizontal angle because it is sunset, it is golden hour. And as you can see, along the rocks and on the clouds, it's a really warm, almost orange / yellow color temperature. And obviously I knew that the color and the direction of the light was going to be the same in the shot because it was taken maybe a half an hour before. But you will notice that the light is also very low on the horizon. We also have a lot of those warm yellowish tones in this image. And so this is going to work perfectly, but you could take yourself out of an image that was taken at a totally different day and time. You just want to make sure the angle of the light and the color temperature of the light match. Now, you'll notice that in this image, the light is coming from right to left, whereas this image, it's coming from left to right. However, that is not going to be a problem for reasons that I will explain. So let's zoom into our subject by clicking Command+. And we're going to hit W on our keyboard, which is the quick selection tool, which is right here on the left in our toolbar. And we're just going to click and drag over our entire subject. So we basically want these little marching ants to just encompass our entire subject. And don't worry about it being perfect. It's not going to be perfect, and we're going to clean it up afterwards. But we do want to get a decently good selection. So you're going to notice that parts of your image, like right here, it's really, really off. We definitely don't want that background in there. So hold down Option while you drag your mouse over the part of the image that you do not want selected. And you'll notice that the marching ants disappear on that part. Now you'll definitely have to go back and forth. I just let go of Option to reselect this because it came undone, so to speak. And the way that Photoshop, basically the way that this feature works in Photoshop, I should say, is it goes off of color and patterns as well as contrast. So for example, up here, it's definitely going to have a hard part with my dress versus the background because it actually did a decently good job right there. But my dress is very textured, so is the background of this. They're both a tone of beige. There's not a ton of contrast between them because the light is really even at golden hour. So that looks pretty good. Let's get rid of this area here. Another tip for you guys, you want to err on the side of selecting too much rather than too little. Like I said, we're going to go in and clean this up no matter what because the edges are not going to be perfect. They never are with this technique. So you definitely would rather have little spots like this that you basically have part of the background selected, then have any part of your subject missing. Like if you look up here, if I just didn't select this area, like a huge chunk of my head would basically be missing. And although we could use the clone stamp to fix that, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So it's better to just err on the side of caution and select more, just go slightly outside the lines than the opposite. So that is looking pretty good. We have a pretty good initial selection. So let's go ahead and if you're on a Mac, you can hit Command C. If you're on Windows, you can just go up to the edit toolbar and hit copy, toggle over to the image that we want to be pasting it and hit Command V, or go to the edit menu and hit paste. So let's again zoom into our subject by clicking Command plus and just go ahead and take a look at these edges. Like I said, they are not going to be perfect, so don't get beat up about this. And what you're seeing me do now is I just use the keyboard shortcut E, or you can go ahead and select your eraser over here. And I am just clicking and dragging while holding Shift down. And you don't need to hold Shift down while you're using the eraser tool. You can just, as you can see me right now, just click and drag down. But it's really hard if you don't have a Wacom tablet to do that with just a mouse. So by clicking and holding Shift at the same time, what's basically happening is it's going to make a straight line between both points that you're clicking on. So it makes things a lot easier and you can do this effect a lot quicker. I wouldn't use it for somewhere like up like this because this is not a straight line, so it really requires you to just go in and just get this the best that you can. And you definitely don't want to use it on like curves. Like if I were to do this, for example, obviously that would not look realistic. If you want to backtrack, by the way, hit Command Z and whatever you just did will get undone. So definitely no worries if you make a little mistake. I just like to fix things as you go. You can make a layer mask so that you can like go back and forth. But to be honest, this really doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to make myself pretty small in this image, meaning I'm going to transform myself down to be even smaller size than I am right now. And so you're really not going to be able to see the edges at all. Not to mention, I'll probably just use this photo for Instagram. If you want to use an image like this, like let's say you were editing it to be on a billboard, or you wanted to print it for like a print portfolio, I would definitely do a little bit better job with the edges. Or if your subject was going to be really big in your image, like you were going to transform them to become even larger than I am right now, you definitely want to be a little bit more careful about your edges. If you need to resize the eraser tool, as you can see, it's getting bigger now it's getting smaller. You can just use the keyboard shortcut, which is the end bracket and the begin bracket. That is right below and to the left of the delete key. And that will just make your eraser tool a little bit bigger or smaller, whatever you need. Typically, you're going to want to keep it pretty small. And that looks pretty good. So we'll just finish up here. I think I already did most of my hair. Yep. Okay, like I said, it really doesn't need to be perfect. So that's a pretty good selection that we have. And the one thing that you'll notice is that the light, as I mentioned earlier, is not coming in the right direction. As it's hitting me, it's coming from over here because you can see a highlight here, and highlight here. But in this image, it's coming from this direction. So how are we going to fix that? Well, if you go up to your edit bar and go to transform, you can hit flip horizontal, and this is going to basically create a mirror image that's just facing the opposite direction. So that is looking really good. The last step is to just go ahead and hit Command T, which stands for transform, and that is just going to allow us to resize me so that I'm the appropriate size for wherever I want to place myself in this image. Now, obviously, if you wanted to place yourself more in the foreground, you would need to be bigger, whereas if I was going to put myself here, that does not look right at all. I look like a giant. So I did want to place myself back there. One trick that I do like to use with this as well is if you have another shot where there's someone standing nearby where you're putting your subject, you can just take a look at how big they are and that will give you a little bit of a size reference for how big you should be. But to be honest, I really don't think anybody would notice unless you're like way, way off. So just do the best that you can. I really like that shot. You can play around and move yourself into different spots. I also created this image as well as this image, but this one was definitely by far my favorite. I love how the wave is crashing up against here. And I also really just like to keep the human elements that I put in photos pretty small because I'm a big fan of landscapes. That's pretty much it, guys. Pretty easy. So time for me to go play some beach volleyball in sunny Hermosa Beach, California. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.